NBC reveals dirty little secret. People can't afford inflation just fine. This is a Newsbuster story. According to NBC business correspondent Stephanie Rule, on Sunday today, the dirty little secret is that American public can afford inflation just fine, and they're just belaching it. Belly aching it. But you just might have to sell your home or tap your 401k to survive the winter. And the dirty little secret here, while nobody likes to pay more, on average, we have the money to do so, she declared. For those who own their homes and value their own homes are up. And while the stock market isn't the economy, you have over half of American households with some investments in the market, and the market has hit record highs. But those aren't the most liquid of assets. So is Rule's advice for people to sell their homes and take out a loan so they can afford to eat? What about the people who rent? What about those who rent and were relying on eviction moratorium? Can you imagine the snobby message from this Stephanie Rule saying, look, you can afford it. Stop bitching that inflation is affecting you. Here's what's so crazy. A guy said the other day, he says, Pat, you have money. Why are you complaining about gas prices? I said, do you think gas prices affect me personally?
No.
Do you think inflation affects me personally?
No.
Matter of fact, do you think inflation has helped me or hurt me?
Helped you.
It's helped me tremendously. Who do you think inflation, gas prices hurts the most?
Low and middle income.
Low and middle income. So the same people.
The 5,000 jobs you made with your company.
So the same people who claim they care for the little guy, the low income, middle income families, are going up there saying, stop complaining, you can afford inflation, go spend the money on gas and go shopping. Do you realize the level of hypocrisy when it comes down to the conversations of inflation? Go ahead, Tom.
So let's say this was Business Roundtable, guest Patrick Bet-David, conservative capitalist from Florida. What was it you that just said the exact same thing she said? What would be the reaction? From Bernie Sanders all the way down, oh my goodness, listen to this guy. He doesn't give a damn about the worker. It's a double standard. This is horrifying. When I read this, I was like, where's the outrage? Where is the outrage? If Jeff Bezos, who's not necessarily conservative, came out and said this, here it is, this guy, serfs and lords, here he is out there just squeezing the little people, yet a liberal talking head is allowed to say this. Never mind that it's logically bankrupt, that you'll continue to sell all of your assets till you're down to zero, till you get through a nuclear winter that you don't know how long it's going to be. This thing was just horrifying to me. It's a double standard. It's wrong-headed logic. And if anybody else said that, they'd be crucified.
Anybody surprised, though?
Well,
no.
Are you surprised? I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised, but I'm not surprised, but I was shocked in that I was not surprised, but I was the same shocked.
Got it. Makes sense. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, I don't know if it's this chair, this microphone, but I'm not as offended with her statement as you guys are. I don't know if it's Adam channeling me through this microphone or whatnot. I will say this. I am maybe not quite as offended by the statement for one reason. She's a TV personality. Maybe look what she did. I know her name now. I didn't know it before. Now, I don't know if she was doing it for that reason, but I also will say this. I think everybody speaks from a level of perspective. And Pat, I think her perspective is I make a pretty damn good salary as an NBC correspondent. It's not affecting me yet, so I'm speaking from that perspective. I don't know if this was an overarching commentary of how it affects all of America. But just to take a little bit different side here, I can see where she's coming from a little bit but it hasn't hit her big yet because right now prices across the board are 6% higher than they were a year ago. And that number is going to go higher and it's going to cross many, many more categories than it already is.
It's interesting you're saying that. I remember running a sales office and one day I look up, I'm 25, 26 years old. 95% of all my sales guys were under the age of 25, okay? They were all hooking up with each other. I would come on Sundays, no joke, at my office, and on Sundays they're on the floor having sex at my sales office. That's how crazy this sales office was.
Wow.
No, I'm not even. I would tell them, I'm like, listen, go to a different place, and they would say, look, we don't have a different place. I said, dude, Jim, finish up. I'll come back in. I'd give them 10 minutes. I'd come back. I'm telling you a true story. And then here's what I realized: these 20-year-olds, these 21-year-olds were broke. They didn't have a market. Everybody else, they knew were going to clubs. They were rolling. They were doing ecstasy. They were talking about what's the best G to use and all this other crap. And one day I'm like, I'm done. Don't give me a phone number for another person that's 21 years old. I only want to call clients or people who are interested in doing business that are above 25 years old, married with kids. So watch what I did. As a single person, sometimes when we talk about kids, what do single people typically do? I don't care. Why? I ain't got
Doesn't
kids.
affect their
I don't
life.
think about what it is to have kids, right?
Right.
But I realized the reason why everybody in my office was single was because I only knew the life of a person who was what? Single. So I said, wait a minute. If you want to truly be able to get a clientele that's making money, that's married with kids, you have to understand what it is to be married with kids and the pains that parents go through, right? So this girl that's talking about this inflation deal that everybody else can go suck it up and do whatever they're doing, she's not putting herself in the situation of a single mother right now with 2 kids trying to do her best to work and homeschool in the state of California and trying to make the whole thing happen. And this kid is having to go through this the last 18 months. All she's thinking about is the people she's around all the time. So, no, I don't understand her rhetoric that she's got.
She's living in a different world, completely out of touch.
But that is the whole thing. Like that is the whole thing about rich people that lost perspective of what it was once to be low income and middle America. If you can't connect with them, you lose.
Try a social experiment.
There's-
Go live on their wage for a month and then complain about it.
It's an insult. If
Yeah.
I'm somebody that's making $28 an hour and I'm trying to do my best to support my husband, my wife, my kids, I'm offended by her comments. That's all it is. I'm not offended by it. It doesn't do nothing to me. Zero. I am not at all directly impacted by this, but I know tens of millions of families who are.
And I think Tom had a great point in terms of if this was a person on the Republican side or a rich person, God forbid, that said something like this, then they'd be like, oh, you're just saying it because you're this or that. They'd be totally railing against it as opposed to just being, oh, well, I guess it is what it is.
Yeah, listen, when you lose perspective, you no longer connect with people. Bush Sr. went through it, where the lady asked him a question about the fact that, hey, how does the debt
Inflation
affect
affecting
you?
Yeah.
And then he gave an answer saying, you don't think it affects me? And then Clinton came in and says, let me tell you what we do in the state of Arkansas. And he won. And he was right because Bush lost perspective on how to connect with families that are struggling with this. The moment you can't do that, you're done with.
But the ironic thing about this is the audience for her is a left-leaning voting. And those are the people that are suffering the most, right? And they're the ones that are least offended probably by this because they're used to having this rhetoric thrown at them.
The classic limousine liberal.
So if you enjoyed this little short segment from the podcast that we did, here's another short segment to watch. Or if you want to see the entire podcast, click over here. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.